All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene is here. So we have a special guest, a guy that I've interviewed a couple of times now. I haven't seen him. I have to look it up. I haven't seen him since February of this year, ever since Charlotte Area Fund opened up a new headquarters in East Charlotte. They moved from Uptown to East Charlotte to be where the need is. And so they have a conference coming up, the Southeastern Association of Community Action Agencies. Their annual conference is coming up. Let me make sure I get the right dates. October 14th through the 17th. You're talking about a conference that represents 8 states, 181 agencies, and the key is economic mobility. That's going to be a big part of that conversation. Also, meeting the need, helping folks access, and that's the name of the game. We were just talking about it. I have on Mr. Nick Wharton, CEO of Charlotte Area Fund. Thank you for stopping in.
Thank you for having me. It's always nice to see you.
Yeah. Again, I can't believe it's been some months. February. I got to ask you about the headquarters. Since the last time I saw you, so many people showed up for that grand opening. How's it been so far?
Well, it's been wonderful. It's nice to be place-based in the East Charlotte area, and we have so many social sector partners there. Been really welcomed by the community. It's been really an empowering experience for the staff, for all of us, to be in such a fresh, space, of course, and around a whole range of amenities as well. It's just been really a great place, and all the business partners have been great to us. And so we've got some big plans to do some things with them and the community, quite frankly.
So many people showed up. I thought the
nice.
fire marshal was going to show up.
Well, that's a great point. I'm glad they didn't.
I joke, but it just shows you just the support you guys have. Talk about Charlotte Area Fund. Before we get to the conference,
Sure.
For those who are not familiar, and talk about yourself, because you're a man who wears many hats, has worn many hats. Talk about the role you play in Charlotte Area Fund.
Well, one of the things I oftentimes say is that, service, is the rent we pay, for being human. And it's not my term. It's Shirley Chisholm, one of the first African-American congresswomen, would always say that, right? So I kind of live my life in that context. So when I think about the Charlotte Area Fund, certainly it's been around 60 years, really born out of the war on poverty. The then President Lyndon Baines Johnson signed the Economic Opportunity Act, created 1,000 community action agencies, also created the Head Start, a whole range of initiatives, that came out of that legislation that was so important because there was a clear consciousness that investing in low-income communities and poverty was important. Quite frankly, the free market had failed poor people, as well as the government had failed poor people. And so the Community Action Agencies was born out of that period. And so we were one of the first community action agencies in North Carolina, in the nation really, but here in North Carolina. And in fact, we were one of 4 or 5 community action agencies in the state. So then Governor Hunt signed the North Carolina Fund. It was a concept that predated, 1963, predated the Economic Opportunity Act. And then, of course, when that act was legislated, we became the Mecklenburg County's Community Action Agency, commissioned by the county, Board of County Commissioners. And so we've been that long. Now, what's interesting about the Community Action Agency, ours, is that so many organizations have had their genesis within the Charlotte Area Fund. Organizations like the Food Bank, Workforce Innovation Act, Head Start, Legal Services. All of these organizations are, really sort of namesakes in the community, and we think of them quite seamless as part of our social sector infrastructure here in Charlotte, but yet many of them had their origination in the Charlotte Area Fund.
Wow.
So it's been an organization that has provided direct services to families, helping them to reach economic self-sufficiency, as well as helping incubate organizations, small businesses at times, but certainly nonprofits are small businesses, right? Helping to incubate them, and then they spring off and do the wonderful things that we all know that those organizations are doing. And so we try to continue that tradition around direct services and also partnering with agencies. So strategic partnerships, shared mutual outcomes is really how we really become a viable, organization in the community, which 60 years is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, just my takeaway from our initial interview, our initial conversation is that partnership, everybody working essentially as one. You've been with Charlotte Area Fund since 2018, and we have this conference coming up, the Southeastern Association of Community Action Agencies. How did you guys, obviously you're part of an ecosystem with
Sure.
community action agencies. How did Charlotte, I guess, become the host of this year's conference, and talk about what you hope to take away from this conference?
Great question.
Yeah.
So there are 1,000 community action agencies across the nation,
Mm-hmm.
and they operate oftentimes through federal community service block grant,
Mm-hmm.
about $800 million, let's say, right, for these 1,000 agencies. However, they are connected to all kinds of other issues: Head Start,
Mhm.
Manufactured Head Start, low-income heating assistance programs. They have a number of food banks. They have a number of sort of tentacles
Mm-hmm.
in other programs, right? They're in 95% of the nation's counties, right? They receive wide bipartisanship on both sides of the aisle,
Mhm.
right? And so there's a general agreement these programs work. So their regional conferences, and the Southeastern Association represents about 8 states and
Mhm.
several million clients, quite frankly. So Charlotte is a destination place, right?
Yeah.
This is a great place for conferences.
It's growing.
It's growing. And, quite frankly, when I think about the work that the whole city has done, other social sector partners around economic mobility, moving from 50 out of 50 to 38 out of 50, in the rating for
Yeah.
economic social mobility, it almost seemed fitting, right, that this association would choose Charlotte, right, as its location. We're the host agency,
Mm-hmm.
and we're very excited about that. We have an interesting lineup of individuals. We're looking at perhaps maybe 300 to 400, executives and staff members from these agencies that will be coming to Charlotte. I'm excited that we have a host of speakers. Jada Grandy Mock, who's Fifth Third executive, who just sort of transitioned from Fifth Third. She's got a compelling story to tell about her own experience with poverty in Pittsburgh, and has risen to the highest level of executive status,
Mhm.
C-suite at Fifth Third Bank. She's going to be a keynote speaker,
Mm-hmm.
which is wonderful. And then, of course, the association is going to be honoring our own very own Dorothy Count Scoggins, and we all know her
Mm-hmm.
history and her family's, march toward Harding High School into great schools in 1951, I believe it was. And she's on our board, and so she's still very vibrant. So we're going to honor her at the luncheon, which is really great, And then we're going to talk about, we had a session talking about corporate and community partnerships, So it's going to be really interesting,
Mhm.
and this is an interesting time,
Mhm.
quite frankly, right?
Yeah.
So we're very excited to be here. We've got 33 community action agencies in the state of North Carolina. They serve approximately 57,000 low-income families. Many, at least 22 of them, have Head Start programs as well that serve young people at the dawning of their lives,
Mhm.
right? And of course, or at the dawning of their lives. And then of course they also have senior programs, right?
Yeah.
That help seniors, right? So there's a whole array of support services that are going to be on display. We have comprehensive workforce development programs,
Mhm.
and some have food banks, senior programs, as I mentioned, all in the pursuit of economic self-sufficiency for families.
And it sounds like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's really putting your heads together and finding solutions, and seeing what works here. Maybe it could work
Right.
here in Charlotte.
Well, it's interesting. So what's fascinating about community action agencies is that legislatively, they're designed for what's called maximum feasible participation. So what does that mean? Each of the boards of directors of community action agencies are sort of framed around this concept of tripartite.
Yeah.
That is to say, a third of the board represents elected officials, a third of the board represents low-income communities, and a third are private citizens. And so you bring those entities together
Right.
and build strategies that are more from the bottom up rather from the top down. And so that's been a sort of I'd say a sort of theory of change, if you will, in terms of how the organizations really work.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've been doing this for obviously a long time. One point I'll kind of share that you'll find interesting. Certainly at the height of COVID,
Yeah.
right, when everything was shut down, both private, nonprofit, for-profit organizations were shut down, the Congress saw fit to allocate community action agencies $1 billion as first responders, right? And so that was a dreadful period for all of us, and 1 million Americans lost their lives. It was a tough period. And so our agency sort of went into action, and so we were keeping families in their homes with emergency assistance, paying mortgages, fixing cars.
Helping other nonprofits.
Yeah. There are a number of nonprofits we helped to support during that period. So it was a really, we learned a lot through that period in terms of how to operate efficiently too, right? And so obviously we're all operating, we have a staggered sort of day still in terms of flexible work day. All the staff have technology at home. So all those things really helped during that period, right?
Yeah.
And it built a sort of resilience, if you will. And so, speaking of resilience, the name of the theme for the conference is Resilience in Action, Strengthening Communities and Empowering People. And so this is a group of individuals, I have to say. Community action agencies largely operated in obscurity. Very rarely you maybe see them, in interviews and cameras. These are frontline people. As I mentioned, 33 community action agencies in North Carolina. And so they're in rural areas, some that have been impacted by poverty. It hasn't really progressed in a sense since COVID. We've got partners up in the area, impacted by Hurricane Helene, and one of the partnerships that we crafted during that period was with the Park Church. And we, in Truist Bank, we sort of co-created this mobile vehicle that responds to the needs of the 3,100 unhoused individuals in Mecklenburg County. You might see this mobile vehicle traveling around the county. It provides showers. It has washing machines inside. Has a place to sit and converse. But it really does serve an incredible purpose. That was born out of COVID, and so it's still on the road.
Oh wow!
It's serving needs that are pretty vital. In fact, it was also deployed to Jackson, Mississippi, a year or so ago, 2 years ago now, during its water crisis. So it's really nice to have partnered with, Truist Bank. Park Church is a really faith-based initiative, really, and the Charlotte Area Fund was at the center of that. And that was a great film. So we see it all the time. We see the works that we're doing impacting folks' lives.
You mentioned this earlier, community service block grants, and right now at risk of being cut. Is that? I'm sure that's going to be a topic of discussion.
Well, quite frankly, we've been having this conversation for some time now, and so the beautiful thing about it is that the CSBG Community Service Block Grant has received wide partisan support on both sides, right? I know there's a looming federal, shutdown, in the atmosphere. Quite frankly, shutdown helps no one, right? So we're feeling positive about how this will, turn out, but there's a great deal of uncertainty, even, pre-looming shutdown. So we're working. We keeping our heads down and we're working hard and serving our clients' needs, and we're community leaders, and so we have to lead with resilience, and that's what we're doing.
Speaking of the need, does the need look different now versus maybe this time last year? I guess this was right around the same time that we spoke.
That's correct.
We first spoke.
That's correct. Well, and this is not a unique thought by Nick Wharton, but I think the level of economic uncertainty that all Americans are feeling is not their imagination.
Yeah.
It's real. And so community action agencies are feeling the same thing. Now, I will say, because of the clients we work with that are at 125% federal poverty and below, they've been feeling, the sting, of uncertainty for a long time. This doesn't instill any confidence, right? But one of the things that I see from a sort of asset building perspective of many of our clients, they have extraordinary coping skills and ways of negotiating their environment, right? to stay reasonably sane, right? To take care of their families.
Yeah.
And I don't just say this just because I see it, you know. I've experienced it growing up, you know, poor in New York City. And so I can, you know, remember at 5 years old having a moment of homelessness, right? And having been on public assistance. And so I come to this work with a sense of authenticity, you know, and clarity about my own life and, of course, how it's affecting other people's lives. And you see change, you see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, things can be different. And that's at the individual level. But at the systems level, that's perhaps what you're referring to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of I'll say, lack of clarity and support, in a sense, for low-income families. I'm really positive about what's happening in Charlotte. Obviously, you know, we've got much affordable housing initiatives going on. There is a climate, you know, that we really want to do something here. And it's hard to appreciate that if you haven't been other places. So if you've been other cities and you see what's going on in other places, you come back to Charlotte and say, okay, there's a sense of sincerity, you know, about a number of initiatives. But then, of course, there's a sense of, you know, we're operating in two worlds.
Yeah.
Right? And that's real.
Yeah.
And so the climate we're experiencing now is sort of adding to that.
Yeah, I remember last time we spoke, the economic mobility from the Shetty study.
Yes.
We were ranked 50th.
Right.
Now, as you know, I looked hard to see if that changed.
Well, it's
from
38
it's
now.
38 now,
Right,
but I
right.
was looking to see if it changed. But
Right.
but 38, but that's moving in the
Yeah.
right direction.
Well, I think it is too, but you know, a lot of times the sort of research is from a policy wonk perspective. Okay, that sounds pretty good, but the question is it changing folks' material lives?
Yeah.
And 38 to 50, I'm not certain that that sort of
Right.
hits the mark, really, right? But being on the right trail is really, really important. But what we're seeing, though, is that families are still living on the margins. We still need much more opportunities for families to grow and develop. And what we try to do is create a sense of dignity, you know, when families come to us. You know, we've got a workforce development program, as you know. We do HVAC, med tech careers, quite frankly, any area that someone comes to us and they're ambitious, whether it's barbering, whether it's another entrepreneurial pursuit they may have, if they meet our economic, you know, criteria, and more importantly, if they demonstrate a level of ambition and interest, we'll circle the wagons around. Not just us, but we'll also summon our partners, right, to go along with this journey with families. And so, you know, we're trying to do our part, right? But at the systems level, you know, there still seems to be a sort of disconnect around whether or not everyone ought to sort of have this life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? There's still a sense in the air that those who perhaps, you know, haven't grown up with these sort of resources, they operate outside the margins. And so that's not a good thing for any of us. And so the good thing about, you know, community action agencies, we view it as an investment in people, right? And it's locally controlled. It's not an organization that's sort of summoned from somewhere and the mandates come down. We have some compliance issues, but for the most part, they are locally driven, right? So we have the flexibility to be creative and do the things that and agile to shift and turn to help families to do things they need to do. So that's a real plus.
I mean, folks can actually reach out and touch you.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean,
that's correct.
yeah.
That's correct. That's correct. And one of the exciting things, I think you probably referenced this in the previous show, is that we were also very honored, you know, in the, you know, top 3 banking cities in the country to be awarded a List Charlotte Financial Opportunity Center. And that really helps us to kind of develop the sort of competencies to help coach and direct families who obviously have gone through much financial trauma to help them understand money and how money can work for them. So we have workforce development training, really trying to upskill individuals, and then as they develop a sense of where they're going, we can help manage their money. We had a gentleman that came to our office some time ago, and he came for, he was thinking about training and workforce development, and he had this extraordinary stress around the idea that he would lose his home. And so some time ago, that would be a different conversation. Having this financial opportunity center, and all of our success coaches have gone through financial coaching training, which LIST provides, that conversation was handled differently. So for instance, we were able to talk more in detail about his housing circumstances and talk more about his finances. And of course, not unlike many families, the wife usually manages the finances. So we got his wife on the phone, right? And that was a very different conversation. And we reduced the stress. We provided some avenues through our other financial partners that we can help them to rethink the notion of selling what is a very important asset, their home, right? So we've kind of put that on hold, and now they're thinking differently about their destination. So, and again, some years ago we may not have approached it the same way.
Right.
Now that we had this more, this other competency, we could address it in a much different way. And then, of course, we're also, as you remember, co-located with Habitat for Humanity, and they have an extraordinary affordable housing program. And so we're linking our clients with that program as well. So it's been quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Vito, look, I remember growing up, my mom was down to her last $25. So conversations around money wasn't,
Right.
and how to invest your money and how to use your money, that wasn't even a conversation.
No.
The conversation was how to stretch it,
Right.
not how to invest it.
That's right.
So that's a very important conversation. I do want to ask. You said, "Hey, we're putting our head down. We're working." I want to highlight the conference again. The Southeastern Association of Community Action Agencies annual conference will be here in Charlotte, October 14th through the 17th. Beyond that, you guys are hard at work. Every time I check in, there's always something.
Yeah.
There's something new.
Yeah.
Are you able to speak to what's after the conference? What that work is?
Well, quite frankly, we're still integrating this Financial Opportunity Center.
Okay.
Right? And of course, when you move to a new location, that takes some time, to get your head wrapped around that, right? So we're just sort of managing what we have right now, right? And if we can manage through, the fiscal climate, as you mentioned before, community action agencies, low heating assistance programs, weatherization, Head Start, all those programs are hanging in the financial balance right now.
Yeah.
Right? So hopefully on the other side of this shutdown, as we look to FY26, there'll be much more substantial approval of funding. You see, so that's what's top of mind for us. We're close to 95% federally, supported.
Yeah.
Right? And so from a pure business sense, a part of what we've been doing is a couple things. One, really minimizing and managing our overhead from a financial perspective, diversifying, our fundraising, our revenue in a sense, keeping a lean organization, right? Very agile in terms of our staffing and how we move, the programs that we'll look at. And of course, we have no debt, right? And so those are sort of four sort of solid building blocks of a solid community action or a nonprofit agency, period. So we're keeping our eye on that, particularly in these economic uncertain times.
Yeah. Wow. Charlotte Area Fund, I've done a couple of stories, as I mentioned before. They do a lot of work here in our community. Again, Southeastern Association of Community Action Agencies Conference, the annual conference here in Charlotte, October 14th through 17th. Last question before I let you go. And then this is Nick Wharton, CEO of Charlotte Area Fund. Anything you're looking forward to from the conference? Do you ever take a step back and say, okay, all right, we're moving the right direction, or what are the thoughts?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. What I realize among many nonprofit organizations, having opportunity to come together, right, and sort of decompress, right, and look at each other in their sort of, what we used to say, your orbital sockets, and say, listen, we're in this together, right? Let's have some rich conversations. Let's not even talk about like politics, really. Let's just check in with you. How's your family? How's your self-care?
Yeah.
Right? These are enormously stressful times. And of course, my wife and my children, have to sort of remind me, I can be pretty driven about this work, right?
Yeah.
And even the staff. So just an opportunity to sort of just pull back, right? And also strategize about how we move forward together, right? And not just community action agencies. How do we kind of live out our mission, really? to be really helpful to others, right? Because not all just about us. There are multiple impacts going on in the nonprofit community and for for-profit as well. But the reality is that how do we kind of move forward together? This real resiliency thing is sort of a double-sided, experience. I mean, being resilient suggests that you have to be strong, you have to stay focused. But that's not always helpful, right? Being able to just, self-care, to pull back and just exhale for a moment. That's one thing I hope, aside from all the other policy issues and so forth, and the training and technical assistance that will happen, just be able to kind of get centered. If we can do that, it'll be a success.
Oh man, that's important. I hope you.
Yeah.
I know you will be able to do that. Every time I see you, you're on the go. You should see him work a room. He's all over the place.
I talk about it
in a good way, all over the place in a good way.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's Nick Wharton, CEO of Charlotte Area Fund. Again, I want to mention this again. The Southeastern Association of Community Actions Agencies holding their annual conference here in Charlotte, October 14th through the 17th. Mr. Ward, as always, thank you for your time. Thank you for stopping in.
Thank you for being you.
Of course, thank you.